Hey everybody, Greg with ACB Realty. I am so excited today to have our first credit repair class in our conference room. Credit is one of the most important things in whether you're buying a house, financing a car, job, everything, you guys. So even if your credit is good, you can help someone else with just the basic principles that we're going to discuss today. So we'll talk to you soon. Again, we are here to help you and be your realtors for life. Take care.
Good afternoon. I'm glad you're here. And we're here to talk about home ownership. My name is Pat Lynch. I'm Vice President and Mortgage Loan Officer at Bluestone Bank. Bluestone Bank is a combination of Bridgewater Savings Bank and Mansfield Bank merged together with a total of 250 years between the two of them of lending in the community. We specialize in residential lending, which is what we're going to talk about today. And when we start talking about residential lending, the very first thing we need to talk about is credit. So I'd like to make this somewhat interactive. So I'm going to give you some information. If you have questions, interrupt me, ask the question, because if you have the question, chances are everybody else has the question. So when we start with credit, we start with credit scores. Does everybody know what a credit score is? They range anywhere from 350, which is really, really bad, up to 850, which is really, really good. And there's 500 points in between, and all those points mean something along the way. There's 3 credit bureaus. There's Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. For mortgage lending, we must use all 3 bureaus and do a hard credit pull. That's required of mortgage lending. We can't do soft credit pulls, and we can't do 2 bureaus. We have to do all 3. When we pull those, we get 3 scores. And has anybody ever pulled their own credit scores? And I promise I won't ask you what your scores are. You've pulled your own credit scores. Have you pulled more than one? Did you pull 2? 3. You pulled all 3. Were they exactly the same? No. So they will range. Do you remember what the spread was between the high and the low by any chance?
At least 100 points.
Oh, 100 points. Okay, so normally it's 30 to 40 points spread between each one. And the big question is why? Why is one of my scores 700 and one of them 649? And the reason is each credit bureau has their own way of calculating credit risk. And those scores are calculating credit risk. That's what they're doing. The higher the score, the lower the risk. The lower the score, the higher the risk. They're just using different algorithms to come up with those. And those are proprietary. Nobody knows what they are. And we also hear that they change them a lot, so that those scores can be fluctuating when you did absolutely nothing to your credit. But because they changed an algorithm, it could go up or down 10 points. So that's why in lending, we use the middle of the 3 scores, because we figured that's the fairest way to do it. We don't average them. We throw out the high and the low. It's just like being in school on the bell curve. They throw out the high and the low, and you get the middle, and that's what we use. So in lending, and I'm just going to give you some rough numbers because nothing's etched in stone here. Typically, we're looking for a 640 credit score minimum to get into the programs. Now, 640 means you can have some dings on your credit, can have some past problems. You know, if you went through a bad relationship and somebody used your credit card, we understand that. So 640, you can have some dings. It doesn't have to be perfect. A lot of people say to me, oh, you know, I defaulted on a credit card, and that's fine. We can work with certain things. So 640 is kind of our magic number. Now, how do you get to 640? Everybody says, well, how do I get to that? The first thing is pay your bills on time. That's going to be the biggest impact to your score, is paying your bills on time. That's it. On-time payments, your score will be up there. And then there's another thing that factors into your scores, which is the second biggest thing. It's your utilization of available credit. So if you have credit cards that have $500 limits on them and you're charging $450, you're at 95% of your credit limit, and you don't want to do that. You want to stay at least below 50% of your credit limit, and if possible, below 30%. That's not always possible for people, and we'll talk about a couple tricks we can do. But those are the 2 biggest factors in credit scores. Now you'll hear, inquiries affect your score, length of credit affects your score, your credit mix affects your score. They all do, but they don't have the impact that on-time payments do and utilization do. So let me give you a couple of examples of utilization. And I love picking on people in the room. Irma has a Kohl's credit card. She has a $500 credit limit and she owes $400. So she's at 80% of her credit limit. Tony has a $3,000 credit limit at Kohl's and he has $1,000 charged. So he has $1,000, she owes him $450. Who do you think has the better credit score? Tony does, because he's only using a third of his available credit and she's using 80%. Now, personally, I'd rather be in her position than his, but that's the way credit works. So let's say you're thinking in your head, I just bought that TV at Best Buy and I owe them $1,000 and my credit limit's $1,000. Well, you're at the top. So after you make a couple payments on time, you call Best Buy, and Gregory's heard this, you call Best Buy and you say, hey, Best Buy, I bought a TV there 2 months ago. I'm thinking about a surround sound system. Can you increase my credit limit to $2,500? Let them increase the credit limit, but do not go out and buy the surround sound system. Because now you have a $2,500 credit limit and you only owe maybe $1,000 less whatever you've made for payments. So now you're below 50%, you may even only be at 30%. So
That's the way to get lower utilization.
lower your utilization and increase your score.
Can I ask you a question? Because,
Sure.
Sometimes I've seen people do that, and then they pull out a hard credit just to make sure to increase the amount, so that wouldn't affect you.
Well, remember, the inquiries have a very small impact
Okay.
compared to the utilization impact.
Okay. All right.
So typically with a good credit score, a credit pull is 3 points. That's
Okay.
all it's going to hit you for is 3 points. Lowering your utilization on credit is going to be 30 points.
Okay.
So
It's a big difference.
yeah. So now again, I can't say that for everybody's credit looks different, but typically that's the first thing we'll look at is if payments are made on time and we say, well, why is the score so low? We look at utilization. The other thing is your depth of credit, meaning how long have you had credit cards open? So maybe when you were in college, high school, or wherever you were, you opened your Kohl's credit card and it's been open for 10 years. And you don't use it anymore, it's just annoying, and you close it. You just dropped off 10 years of history from your credit report. And maybe your next new account is only 4 years old. Now you only have a credit history that's 4 years deep versus 10 years deep when you close the account. So we tell people there is no need to close an account, a charge account. You're not responsible for fraudulent charges on it, okay? And the store is responsible for that, so they're very protective of those things. And unless somebody steals it from you, like somebody that takes it and uses it, and you're not going to drag your kid into court. So don't close out any accounts. They will automatically close them probably at some point if you don't use it. But when you're applying for a mortgage, it's important to have that depth of credit there. And the deeper the depth, the better the score. Again, it's all risk. Hey, they've been managing credit. They actually have credit cards that have $1,500 limits on them. They have zero balances. They know how to manage a budget and their money. And that's exactly what the algorithms are analyzing. People who open up several credit cards and start using them all because they get points from this one and then they transfer balances and they get points, that doesn't look good. That triggers all kinds of things of use of credit. So that's in their algorithms when they see balances switching back and forth. But if you switch your credit card balances to a debt consolidation, into a fixed rate installment loan, the installment loans have a better impact on your credit score than revolving debt. So I have seen people take $8,000 worth of revolving debt on 4 cards, pay it off with one loan with a payment on it, and their scores go up because they just zeroed out all their credit cards, so the utilization went way down, put on an installment loan. Now you go, well, okay, they just took out an installment loan for $8,000, they owe $8,000, that's at the maximum. Now what you do is you try to pay that down to 50% as quickly as possible, right? So you got rid of all your credit cards. Now you're going to just sock money down on that to get that down even lower. So those are really the things. I can't stress enough how much impact on-time payments have. That is, you can have 0 utilization, you can have a 40-year credit history, but if you have late payments, that score is plummeting. And
How long, let's say you're 30, because they can't really report it till it's like 30 days, right?
correct, it has to be 30 days late to report it.
How long does it take to come off your credit?
It doesn't come off. It's the late payment stays on there. So when we get a credit report, it'll say account current was late, and it'll say November of 2022. And typically what you'll see is, we don't see credit scores going up and down, we just get that picture, that moment in time, just like you did, right? You pulled your scores, that was that moment in time. You could pull it next week and it could be different. We just see what's happening at that moment in time. We don't know what the credit score was a month ago, or 6 months ago before they made that late payment. We do know that the algorithm is very sensitive. That's my interpretation of it. So let's say all your payments are made on time on everything, and you completely forgot about the Kohl's bill, completely forgot about it. You owed them $25 and you forgot about it. It shows up as a late payment. I believe the algorithm says, oh boy, they missed a $25 payment, they're in trouble. You know, they paid all their bills always on time, and now they missed a payment.
How many days?
Well, it has to be 30 days
Okay,
before it gets reported.
all right.
So it gets reported as a 30-day late payment. That algorithm is very sensitive and says, something's going on here. We're going to drop the score because their risk factor just went way up, right? Credit scores evaluate risk. Went way up. We don't know what's going on. Irma just paid her bill. She didn't pay her bill. It was $25. Why didn't she pay her bill? We don't know. Did she lose her job? Is she overspending somewhere? Is she gambling? We don't know. So the score will go down. And then it watches what happens next. So Irma gets the next bill. Oh my goodness, I now owe them a late fee. I owe them this. You pay the whole thing and you're all done. And then that's the next month. And the next month, Irma pays all her bills on time. And the next month, Irma pays all her bills on time. And it goes, oh, okay, there wasn't a problem. Must have just been the envelope dropped between the seat of her car. You know, something like that. So it's evaluating constantly what you're doing. Every time I charge something big on my credit, you guys must do it too. You go, you book a trip, or you book a hotel room, or you do something unusual, my score goes down 10 to 12 points because it's tracking. You know, okay, you pay for your gas, you pay for your groceries, maybe you go to TJ Maxx and buy something, maybe you go to dinner and buy something, but now you just went and, you know, booked tickets. Were you paying cash for those before? Did something change to change your usage of credit? And so I've looked into that, and it actually says change in usage of credit. It's exactly what it says. And you lose points. So we always tell people, before you apply for the mortgage, don't go on vacation and put it on your credit card, because you could actually, it doesn't hit it a lot. I mean, 10 points, but 10 points can be a difference.
Yeah.
So your credit is the most important thing in paying bills on time. Go ahead.
How long does it take for a car to clear off? So I just bought a car,
Yep.
and they had to pay off my other loan, my other car. How long does that take to come off?
Realistically, it's a full 30-day cycle. So because That's the other thing. The credit bureaus don't report every time you do something. So what happens is when you pay Kohl's on, let's just say it's April 5th, you paid Kohl's. Kohl's might have done all their reporting to the bureaus on April 1st. So you pay your bill. They're not doing another report dump until May 1st. So it depends on when the loan got paid off and when the dump cycle was. So if you paid off the car loan, and I'm just going to pick a date, on April 10th, and they did theirs on April 9th, that's going to take until the following month. And it could be, there could be a cross in the mail too, so they wired the funds over on the 9th, they didn't get credited until the 11th, so you're going to miss that. So,
Fall on the cycle.
yeah, people say a lot, well, I paid that bill last week. They don't report when you pay. They're not reporting individuals to the credit report. They're downloading their entire profile of who's paid and who hasn't. It's not an individual thing. It's, all right, here it all is, and they pay for that. And that is the reason why we pull 3 bureaus, because what does everything come down to in life? Everything. Money, right? So when they're reporting to Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, they have to pay for that every month. Some only choose to do it to 2, some choose to do it to just 1, because it's cheaper. We don't always know who's doing what. That's why we have to pull all 3.
How about some people, they go through like bankruptcies and things like that. How long does a bankruptcy stay on your credit report?
11 years.
A very long time.
11 years.
So, and it can still be on there after that. So if you filed bankruptcy today, it's from the discharge date of the bankruptcy that it stays on there. So if you file bankruptcy today and it gets discharged January of 2024, it's 7 years from that date is when basically all the penalties go away. 7 years from bankruptcy, we can lend the same way as we did before. Less than 7 years, we have other rules to follow, and depending on which loan program and down payment and current credit scores and all that kind of stuff, depends on how we can lend to you if it's less than 7 years. But that can still be on your credit report. I've seen them on there longer than 11 years. It can still be on there, but it's a discharged bankruptcy.
Yeah, when I had my business in Cambridge, and then the business went down, so I filed bankruptcy for my business, and then my lawyer told me, why don't you file bankruptcy personally too, just in case if the credit of the business try to go after you personally. So I did both, just to make sure. Luckily, I bought my house, everything, so I didn't need credit.
I mean, that's a plan, right? I mean, haven't people made plans like that? I think, I had a friend years ago who she knew she was going to file bankruptcy, so she had all her T3 done, put it on credit,
Yeah.
and then so people plan for that. You can plan for it.
Yeah, so for 7 years, my credit went down, but because of the bankruptcy, but my credit's still like in the 600 something. And then, but every time when they pull credit, they say, oh, I see her bankruptcy. So within 7 years, I still have that on. By the 11th year, everything dropped, and my credit went up to like 800 and something.
So, and again, when you file bankruptcy, that's a whole different credit counseling thing. You do need to build that credit back up, and it is challenging, but there are ways to do it. There are ways to build that credit back up, not the day after your bankruptcy is discharged, but there are ways to do it. And now the credit bureaus actually allow you to report your rent and utility payments. I don't really know how to do that, but there's a new program where you can have your rent and utilities reported on a credit report, and that will help bolster your scores. So if you have a bankruptcy, you probably need to work extra hard to start getting those scores back up. The mistake that people make after bankruptcy a lot is, I'm never borrowing money again. That was the worst thing of my life. I'm never doing it again. I'm paying cash for everything. And then you have no credit score. You don't exist in the world of credit.
Yeah, we should really look into the rent and utilities, because a lot of our
People,
first-time
it
home
could help
buyers.
people, get their credit up. Do you know where to start to look into that?
Experian does something with it, and I forgot, I can remember their commercial. It has like a cow mooing. I don't know if you've seen that commercial, but it's Experian, and I forgot what it's called.
It's only if you pay electronically.
Only if you what?
Pay electronically, like
Oh,
only
okay.
if there's an electronic
Okay,
process.
I don't know all about it. So let's talk again about why credit scores are so important. So we talked a lot about what affects your scores, what the scores could look like, who reports the scores, how they're reported. But why is that so important in mortgage lending? It's because every single program is credit score driven. So I'm going to throw out some words and some examples just to give you an idea. Mass housing, minimum credit score for their loans is 640. So if you're below a 640, you can't do a mass housing loan, for example. There's other programs like adjustable rate mortgages, jumbo loans. If you don't have a 700 credit score, you can't do them. There's other programs. FHA is a little more flexible. They'll actually go down as low as 600, but it's very challenging to get that credit score approved for a mortgage.
They go down to what, you said?
600. They say they go down to 580, but I've never seen a 580 get approved. And then here's the other thing that you need to know. The higher your interest rate, the higher your credit score, the lower your interest rate. So every time your credit score, they do them in 20-point blocks. So 780 being the best, gets you the best interest rate, and again, geared on down payment as well. You get down to 680, you're getting a rate significantly higher than the person at 780. So there's a big spread, and it can cost you money over the life of your loan if you can't get that score up to where it should be. So that's why credit's so important. It also impacts how we underwrite loans. So when you're underwriting a loan, you have to evaluate risk. That's what it's all about. When we underwrite a loan, it's risk. What is the likelihood that we're going to be paid back the money that we lend? So we have all kinds of regulations to follow, which we won't go into here. But we have all kinds of regulations to follow that say you can't lend to anybody who doesn't have the ability to repay the loan. We also, so that's one rule, but as a lender, we also want to make sure that we don't lend to somebody who doesn't have the willingness to pay us back. So what is the willingness? That's really what we're looking at in those credit scores and credit profile. If you defaulted on the car loan that you took out, and you defaulted on the K Jewelers card, and you're delinquent on your Kohl's credit card, there's nothing that makes us think you're going to pay us back, regardless of what your credit score is. We're told that medical collection accounts don't get put in there, but sometimes collection accounts that have been sold don't always get tagged as medical. So, because maybe they don't know that it's a medical. It was bought from a dentist to a collection agency, then the collection agency sold the bad debt to another firm. They don't necessarily know that this was a medical collection, so it might be tagged differently. Collection accounts, we see them a lot from people who had rented. They rented an apartment in Braintree. They moved from Braintree to Quincy. The last bill for electrical, they didn't leave a forwarding address, was mailed to Braintree. They never paid the bill. And so now they have a utility collection account on their credit report, and they don't know about it until we tell them. Now, I find that hard to believe with today's technology, but sometimes that happens. So credit scores and credit payments are so critical in the mortgage process. If you don't have the willingness to pay us back, which is we evaluate how you've paid your credit, you're probably not getting a loan.
But, quick question. Let's say that the utility bill you just talked about wasn't forwarded to a new address for them to pay, right? Would the underwrite consider that, okay, is it one mishap, and would like take that off the...
If everything else was fine on the credit report, yeah, a letter of explanation for collection account with, you know, Columbia Gas and evidence that it's been paid.
Oh, okay.
That's all. I mean, it's as simple as that. But if every account is late,
Yeah.
they don't want to hear your excuses. We give everybody the opportunity to explain their credit. When an underwriter reviews a loan, we take a denial seriously. So we give them the opportunity to explain their credit. We give them an opportunity to explain work history. Anything that's denied has to have a second signature on it, because we want to make sure that everybody is getting fair and equal treatment. If Irma called me and said, hey Pat, I have a 599 credit score, can I get a loan? I can't say to Irma, no, you can't get a loan. I say, why don't you apply? Let's take a look at it and see what we can do. Because maybe I can run it through that FHA program. Or maybe I see something on there and go, hey, Irma, guess what? If you just pay this off, that score is probably going to go up. We don't ever want to deny somebody a loan without taking a complete application and looking at what they look like. And then we can tell you what to do to fix it, right? We can, you know, it might be 3 months later that you're coming back. Credit scores don't change instantaneously so they react coming down a lot quicker than they react going up. Okay, so I'm going to stop there and see if there's any other questions, and then direct me where you want me to go from here.
I have a question. A lot of people, they're sometimes new to the country or they don't have any credit history at all. What's the fastest way for them to build credit?
They need to have a social security number.
Yeah, if they have a
Okay. Fastest way, open up a store charge card. Okay, that's one way to open up a store charge card. There's also banks that if you open up a CD with them, a CD, a certificate of deposit, for example, and put in $1,000, and because you can't get a credit card, nobody, you know, you pull credit, you don't really exist in the credit world. You can open up a CD with a bank, put in $1,000, and then do a loan against your own CD, because the bank is not at risk, because if you don't pay them, they have your money, right? So you put in $1,000, you take out a $500 loan, and then you pay them back, you know, 10 payments of $50. You can pay that. There's some tricks if you're trying to raise your credit score, but that will at least get you established. So when, and I always say Kohl's and Best Buy, I don't work for them, I have nothing to do with them, but they're kind of my favorite because everybody has them. Then you try to get your credit card at Kohl's. Because once you start reporting, they'll give you a credit card with a $250 limit. Now, I know both my daughters, when they turned 18, both got a Kohl's credit card, and the other one that gives it to a lot of people is Discover. And so for every person, my kids have made a business out of this, for every person that you refer to Discover that opens up a credit card, Discover gives you $100. So my kids must have the sales part of me. They run around and get all their friends to open up a Discover card, and she gets $100. So Discover is, I think, especially with college students, is somewhat generous.
Yeah.
They're not going to be giving you $10,000 credit limits. So those would be the two places that I would start, is a store card or Discover, and if you're really running into a wall, try a secured loan. But whether it's realistic or not, like Pat, realistically, I wouldn't want to pay any more than $2,500 a month.
I
Or
was going to say between $2,000 and $2,500 a month.
okay, what would you say is a comfortable amount?
Probably the same or a little closer to 3,000 maybe.
Okay. So a lot of it depends on income, but for a lot of people, it's not income based. I mean, I have people that have bigger incomes, they could afford more, but there's something about that 2,500 to 3,000 comes up all the time. And it's that number that people feel comfortable with for whatever reason. I mean, obviously, if you're making less money, you can't afford that, but that's kind of the number. And I tell people, try to stay within that budget. If that's really where you feel comfortable, stay there. Now, if you're making $300,000 a year and you can afford $6,000 a month, well, that's great. And you might be comfortable with that. But I try to tell people, stick with your budget, do out a budget, figure out what you can qualify for and what you want to pay. And stick with that. Otherwise, you're going to end up with credit problems. And the credit problems are going to be, you're going to start using your credit cards and carrying bigger balances. And that's when people get in trouble. They try to stretch a little too far. And so, you know, for me, I've been doing this for a long time. For me, stability is the most important thing. You don't want people buying a house and calling you up a year later and saying, I can't afford this, sell my house. That's not home ownership sustainability. That's not what we want. We want somebody in a house that can sustain it, stay there, keep it up nice, and live a good life.
How about ratios? What ratios should people, like debt income?
So it's just a standard. 45% of total gross income can go towards your housing payment and all other debt. Anybody in this room take home gross pay? Right? We all have taxes taken out, or most of us do, or we have to pay taxes. So we have taxes taken out. Some of us pay for health insurance. Some of us pay for dental insurance. Some of us pay for life insurance. What else comes out of our paycheck? All those Social Security and things they take from us. That all comes out of our paychecks. And then some people contribute to a 401k. Just for example, teachers, I don't know if anybody's a teacher. Teachers, mandatory 11% has to go into the teacher's pension fund for their retirement. If you work in a union, I don't know if anybody works in a union, all the unions, they're required to put a certain amount of money. It's written right in their contracts. You know, when the union guys say, oh, we get $68 an hour, it's not $68 an hour in their pocket. Part of that is going into their pension plan that's mandatory because they have annuities and pensions. So when I say 45% of your gross income, nobody takes home gross income. So let's just talk about a couple numbers. I don't have a calculator on me, but let's just say you make $6,000 a month. And try to do 5th grade math in my head. How much of the $6,000 a month do you really take home? Is it closer to $5,000?
Yeah.
You know,
6,000 times 28, that's the percent.
what are you taking home? I was just doing quick math in my head. $5,000. So now, if we do 45% of 6,000, so 6,000 a month, what's
4,400.
Okay, so it's even lower than what I thought. 4,400. That's really what you're taking home. What's 45% of 6,000? Something like 2,800?
Yeah, 2,800.
So 2,800. That's 45%. But really, what is it of the 4,400 that you're taking home? It's more than 50% of your income. Mm-hmm. So you got to be careful. So this isn't just your housing payments. So out of that 2,800, if you have a car loan, we have to subtract it from there. So let's subtract $500 for your car because you didn't do a $700 car loan. And let's say you have a couple credit cards with minimum payments of $50 is another $100. So now you're down to $2,200 that you can spend on your housing payment. Housing payment includes principal and interest on the loan, real estate taxes, and home insurance. So, you know, $350 a month for real estate taxes, $100 for home insurance. Now we're down to, and again, really bad at this math, we're down to $1,750 that you can now spend for principal and interest on a home. So there's a lot that goes into this and why we really want to make sure that we sit down and talk to you about every single step of this. So if you are thinking of home ownership, the very first thing you need to do is get pre-approved. And you want to get pre-approved by a local lender, because if you're going to be out shopping with a local realtor, they want to know who your lender is. They don't want a national lender that you got offline because they don't have anybody to talk to. They don't know the validity of that pre-approval. Little commercial at Bluestone Bank, we do all our own underwriting, all our own approvals. Our pre-approvals can be fully underwritten because it's all our own staff. Nothing gets sent out anywhere. We underwrite for the FHA, we underwrite for VA, we underwrite for mass housing, we underwrite for all our conventional loans, everything. So nothing goes out to be underwritten, and we have our own portfolio that we lend in. So you want to get a pre-approval, and that pre-approval should be very specific. It should be what your payment is allowed to be, because let's talk about this for a minute. Let's say you're out looking at condos. And one condo is $250,000, but it has a condo fee of $550 a month and taxes of $250, and another condo is $275,000, but the condo fee is only $200 and the taxes are only $200. Those payments are going to look very different. So you want to know what your payment's going to look like. And the pre-approval will pull credit, and I'm sorry, gentlemen, you missed the part about how important credit scores are. We'll pull credit, we'll know what your scores are. If you need help, we'll tell you what to do. We won't do it for you. We will tell you what to do to increase those scores and make you mortgage ready. Most people, with the exception of a few cases such as bankruptcy, if people really want home ownership, we can get them there in a year, even if they have credit issues today, if they really want it and they have the ability to own a home. It's difficult in this area to own a home, making minimum wage. We don't have a living wage in this state. We have a minimum wage. So other places have things, not even in other countries, have things called living wages, where you get paid enough so that you can afford to live in those cities and towns. We don't have that here. We have a minimum wage. A lot of information. So do you guys have questions? Are you on your journey to home ownership? Is that something that you want to do?
Me, I'm working on making my credit score a little better. I know it's good, but I want it to look like more in the 700s. I'm almost there, but
good for you. Okay, so you know the importance of those credit scores.
Yeah.
The higher the score, the better the rate and program.
Yeah, I just have like an inquiry that I'm looking to like remove.
Inquiries don't have that big of an impact.
No? Okay.
It's a very small impact. I was saying earlier, on-time payments has the biggest impact in utilization of credit cards. So I don't want to repeat everything. If we need to just talk later, utilization of credit cards, keep it well below the limit that you have on the credit card. And you'll be surprised that that'll limit credit card use and things like that.
Okay.
And you'd like to be a homeowner too?
One day, yeah.
Yeah. So home ownership really is the foundation of wealth. You can look at it in every single financial thing that you read. Everyone you talk to, people who own homes end up being financially better off by leaps and bounds. Equity builds in houses. It is a responsibility, but if you're paying rent, as I said to my own kids, when you're paying rent, you're just paying somebody else's mortgage. Why not pay your own? And now there might be a why not reason. I don't earn enough money, or I have bad credit, or I have no down payment money. But if you want that, we can talk about it and see how to get you there. You know, you have to save money, because if you're living at home rent-free and you're not saving any money, how are you possibly going to make that mortgage payment? And, you know, I have people say to me, well, I won't go out as much and I won't go on vacation. I go, okay, for 3 months, put away $2,500 as if you were paying a mortgage payment. That does two things. One, it puts, again, bad math, it puts $7,500 in savings towards a purchase, and it also shows us that you can pay $2,500 a month. Now, if you're paying rent of $1,800, you can't put away $2,500, but you can put away $700. And it just shows, it's going to show you and us that you can afford it. Now, there's other things that go along with home ownership, which is you have utility bills to pay. I joke with the younger kids when I do the first-time homebuyer classes. When you have your own place, that shampoo is not in the shower when you get in there. You have to put it there. The laundry soap isn't there. So if you live at home with your parents, you're used to opening the refrigerator, there's food in there, you go down to do laundry, the laundry soap is there, you take a shower, everything's in there that you need. It's not there when you have your own place. And those are the things we'd like you to consider in your budget. Paper products. I can't believe what I'm paying for paper products. Any other questions about programs or anything?
Can we discuss the work history part?
Sure. So, work history. The rule of thumb is we need a 2-year history of employment. And then there's a whole bunch of exceptions to that rule. College counts as towards your work history. Apprenticeships, training in the trades, trade school, all counts as a work history. I'm trying to think, if you return to work after leaving the workforce to stay at home and take care of kids, and we have both mums and dads doing that, you know, one of them takes a couple years off, or a year off, 2 years off, and they return to the workforce, as long as they've been back to work, and again, depending on the program, 6 months to a year, and we can see that that's what they did before. That's why I say people need to apply so we can evaluate it. Changing jobs is fine, especially if it's in the same line of work. Advancing your career is fine. Let's just say a year ago you were flipping burgers at McDonald's, and now this year you're a truck driver and your income went up significantly. That is acceptable to us. It's 2-year work history. We just want to know that you can work. That's what we want to know. If you have 2 jobs, you need to have been working 2 jobs for 2 years, no exceptions, in order to use the second job. There's no exceptions to that 2-year history. In order to use overtime, bonuses, or commission, 2-year history, no exceptions to that. If you're a nurse or somebody who has those shift differentials, we look at that slightly differently. But we don't, those are just, we have to evaluate those, whether those are your standard shifts or you just happen to work that one weekend for somebody. So we have to evaluate all those things. Work income has to be documented with pay stubs and W-2s. If you're self-employed, we need tax returns to document income. 2 years of tax returns for self-employed borrowers, no exceptions on that. Did you have a particular question about a work history? Do you want to ask me now or after? Okay, that's fine.
What if, for example, they were going for a loan in February and they didn't file their taxes yet? You can use the previous 2 years, or do you need like a profit and loss statement or something?
So you're exactly right. So you use the previous 2 years in a profit and loss statement for the previous year. So right now, at this very moment in time, anyone closing before April 18th can give us their 20 and 21 filed tax returns and a year-to-date profit and loss for 2022. After April 18th, we're going to require the tax return, and if they're on extension, then we need the 2 prior years, evidence that they've filed for the extension, paid any taxes due, and the year-to-date P&L.